Well, hello, my wonderful office workplace warriors, and welcome back to another episode of Dear HR Diary by Manage with Hart, the unfiltered truth you wish you learned in I almost said medical school, business school. What does that tell you? I have a guest on the podcast today, and not just any guest, he's a doctor. So maybe that's where medical school came into place. My
Could
daughter's
be.
a sophomore and she's pre med. So, yeah, we talk a lot about med school. So, anyway,
Awesome.
welcome to Dr. Michael Neal. He is the founder and CEO of Build My Team. So he isn't just any doctor, mind you. He is a practicing optometrist in private practice in, is it Halley, Pennsylvania?
Holly, Pennsylvania. Yep.
Halley, Pennsylvania. All right. He founded Build My Team to solve his own hiring struggles. And I know there are a lot of people out there that have hiring struggles in his practice by modeling how companies like Disney and the Four Seasons hire. Think about those two companies for a minute. The process worked so well, he expanded it to help his friends. And now Build My Team services clients in 8 different healthcare professions in over 40 states and Canada. That's pretty cool. Well, welcome to the show. Do you want me to
Thanks
call
so
you
much.
Dr. Neil? You want me to call you Mike? You want me to call you
You can call me whatever you'd like.
you?
Yeah, we obviously don't have a problem talking back
No.
and forth. We were just talking before we started recording. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
gonna be
We were
fun.
talking about
Yep.
all things hurricanes and tornadoes and snowstorms and natural
Yeah.
disasters. Oh my gosh. Okay, Mike. So tell me now, you're an optometrist, so you
hmm
own your own practice. So
Yep.
that means
Practice with my wife.
you practice with your wife. Not
hmm
that kind of practice, but I practice.
Yep.
So practice with his wife. So you hire
hmm
people, right?
hmm
So you were running into a challenge. So talk to me kind of what that, I mean, you own your own business. So obviously you're having to hire people. So what were you seeing?
Uh, we were seeing chaos, disasters, one after another. We were hiring the wrong people. We were approaching it the wrong way. We didn't know any better. I
Yeah.
mean, in eye care school and in business school and in you're not going to go to school for hiring if you're an entrepreneur. So nobody gets trained on this stuff. And what we found out is we're hiring pretty much backwards.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
that backwards was readily apparent when we took a look at how Disney and the Four Seasons, both incredibly high performing organizations in terms of customer service, like how the heck were they doing it? And we found out, shockingly, that they were not using resumes
Oh,
to hire until essentially the end of their process.
oh my gosh. Okay. So everyone just gasped. They were like,
hmm
what? They're not using resumes.
Yeah.
So I have friends that worked at Disney. I have never talked to them about their hiring practice, but obviously they
hmm
hire tens of thousands of people,
Yeah.
annually. And so does the
Yep.
Four Seasons because they're a global company just like Disney is. But
hmm
I mean, if you think about the level of service and the expectations, those are high thresholds of
hmm
expectations that those companies set for their employees. So I love that as a model. Like
Yeah.
how did you dig in and figure out their approach?
Well, I was looking at these companies, and the service level that they provide is hard to imagine if you haven't been to one of them. So, for example, it, I stayed at a Four Seasons in another lifetime a long time ago for a week out in Maui.
Mm,
This was fantastic. Friend was getting married, and the at the end of the week, I counted over 50 of their team members were greeting me by name throughout the property.
wow.
Now you think, how the heck did these people pull that off? I mean, I'm not that memorable. I'm not Lady Gaga walking down the aisle in a like a meat dress. It was I'm just I was blown away. Took a look at how they were doing it. And they used a process which determined people's natural strengths and talents. That's essentially what they were doing. And so, fast forward to doing this for our practice, ended up creating a what's essentially a text-based process where it's all automated. And now we're choosing people based upon their natural strengths and talents. The Build My Team process doesn't look at a resume until the very end of the process, the hiring or the qualification process for the candidates. It has been a complete game changer. So couple thoughts for your listeners. When was the last time you looked at a resume and the resume told you what the person was good at?
I'm sitting here thinking, a lot of resumes don't. A majority of
Yeah.
resumes, I look at resumes every day,
Right.
just as a, practicing HR professional, and a lot of them don't. And if they
Right.
do, if they're like, top salesperson, sold, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, it's almost like, okay, how'd they do that? So it doesn't, you really don't get an insight into what made the person successful. So there are some of those resumes that kind of glaze over it, but I
Yeah.
would say a majority of them don't.
Well, salespeople are the exception because they'll tell you how great they are. You don't have to ask, right? I
This is
mean,
so true.
right. You walk into a room and they come in with an aura surrounding them, and the lights dim and the music changes, that type of thing. But for administrative team members, which is what we focus on, it's the exact opposite. Most of them don't even know what they're good at
Hmm.
when they're typing up these resumes. The resumes will vary all the way from complete garbage to "you have to be kidding me. We know that's not true," and variations in between. So for administrative team members like secretaries, executive assistants, uh, billing people, any
Customer
type of
service
assistant,
people, like maybe even like people
exactly,
phone calls and
they
that kind of stuff.
they don't know what they're good at. So when they put together a resume, it doesn't tell you meaningful information about what the person's good at all. It's not a topic that's covered by most resumes.
Hmm.
So what we ended up doing at the time with all these problems we were having is we were hiring people essentially to help them. It was a doctor approach, trying to find these proverbially wounded puppies and nurse them back to health. And that's what we were doing. We didn't know any better. And so, what kind of results did we get? Well, we got wounded puppies,
Yeah.
a whole lot of them. And most of them, like almost none of them, got better because that's who they are. They had strengths and talents. Everybody does, but they
Right.
just weren't a match for what we were looking for in any way, shape, or form. And so we were hiring completely wrong.
Excuse me. I was going to say, so you're hiring wrong. As an employer, is there something? I mean, we're not looking at resumes. Are you really almost having to figure out what does this position need, or how is this person going to be successful in this role, or
Yeah.
what are we building the perfect candidate? When I'm talking to my hiring managers, I'm like, if I
Hmm.
could, if I could use AI
Yeah.
to build you a perfect candidate,
Yep.
what would that perfect candidate look like? So is that kind of, I mean, how was the approach? I'm very interested because, a lot of
Yeah.
times we're like, hey, HR person, or hey, hiring manager,
Hmm.
or hey, recruiter, go hire me, a call center employee. And you're like,
Right.
Okay. And you kind
Hmm.
of already think you know what a call center employee does.
Hmm.
But what is it that makes the call center employee successful? I almost think you have to take a different approach. Is that what you were finding too?
Yes. So we have, for each of the positions we hire for, we have what's essentially an algorithm for what makes a terrific person in that role. Secretaries are a super easy example. You have essentially two different levels of secretaries. One's in more of a quieter business versus, let's say, a high volume medical practice. Incredibly stressful job. The door never stops opening. The phone never stops ringing. You have all kinds of responsibilities, and essentially, if you mess any of those up, it can have some real ramifications. So in that particular position, we know exactly what a terrific medical secretary or any type of secretarial position requires. They have defined strengths and talents. So what our software does is it matches the position with matches the candidates who possess those strengths and talents with the position. And it's so straightforward that our software literally will give a thumbs up if the candidate meets those requirements. If they don't, they gently exit our process.
I like that. I'm sitting
Mhm.
here thinking of all the likes on Facebook. It's always like a thumbs up.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
that
Exactly.
simple of a process.
It is. And of course, there's a whole bunch that goes in behind the scenes. Like, for example, how do we know what the business is looking for? Well, it starts out with a consultation call with the business owner or the manager, whomever it might be, to very, in a very detailed way, define what they're looking for. And most businesses want somebody who could do 10 different things. I understand that. Those days are over.
Yeah.
You can't hire like that anymore. Within the healthcare realm or the smaller businesses, we will bring in a person who is outstanding at one or two things and then can do a couple more. But that's where we limit the roles generally. And that means that that person is showing up for work every day with the ability to do these roles in an outstanding way and just banging out terrific productivity. So it starts with that discussion, and then the job description is written by our team. It's published to over 20 different job boards. And then within 5 seconds of a candidate applying for one of those jobs, they get a text on their cell phone. And that's the start of our process with the candidates where we determine what they're naturally good at.
So, how long does that assessment take? Like, is it kind of how detailed is it? How in the weeds is a candidate getting?
Yeah, it's multiple layers. And this was we tried to use one before, I mean, a long time ago. We tried to create or to buy one that would encompass what we needed, and we couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. I mean, we checked the couch cushions, turned over rocks and everything. Because the goal was to never get into this ourselves per se. It was just to solve the problem. We found out it didn't work. This is the equivalent of trying to listen to like have one instrument play an entire song versus an orchestra. When we have all of these different approaches that are being used with these candidates, that's where we really make the music. And so time wise, you're looking at about 10, 15 minutes, depending on how far they go in the process. And then once they're done, the automated side of things, the people who get those thumbs up, we put them through a one-way video interview.
Okay.
And what that video interview will do is it will, first of all, it doesn't matter if they're black, white, green, pink. I mean, all that stuff is irrelevant. We're looking for how they're going to represent the business,
Right.
how they're carrying themselves. We had a person who sailed through the assessments and then did the video interview while driving a car. Okay. That's a red flag under every single human scenario. That person's an idiot. Out they go.
Yeah.
And gently we're uh,
Exited from the process.
exited from the process. Yeah. And on the other hand, we have folks, one of the things that really threw us, and this is something else. We'd have young women doing their video interviews standing in a bathtub. Follow me on
Okay.
this here. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
oh, okay.
The pregnant pause was intentional, but dressed in their best suits, their best clothes. Why on earth were they doing a video interview in a bathtub? And you think about it for a second. Best lighting in the house, door, quietest room in the house, generally protected from the screaming kids or whatever it might be. They acoustically great for most. They were people who, and this happens all the time. They're people who have very few resources, have put their absolute best foot forward to solving this problem of how they're going to essentially perform very well in this video interview. And these are the problem solvers that can solve these problems with almost no resources.
That's a
These
really
are
great insight. Like I wouldn't have even
the
thought. Like I'm seriously
absolutely
going in the bathroom. Like why would you
Mhm.
do it in the bathroom? And that's
Happened over and
such a valid
yeah,
point.
happens over and over. These are the folks you want to hire because they can take something with very few resources and turn it into a wonderful outcome. These are the A players, the absolute undiscovered talent. And if I had to summarize what we do in one sentence, it would be to discover these unknown A players and bring them to a business in a manner in which they can perform exceptionally well.
I love
And
that.
we do this over and over again. It's predictable, repetitive, and can be done anywhere in North America.
It's and when you first started and when you first started this, we were talking about how you determine who good employees are, kind of what a manager is
Hmm.
building the perfect, I'm using air quotes, the
Yeah,
perfect candidate. And you're right. It's like, I want someone that can be on time. There's like
yeah,
5 bajillion things.
right.
So I almost go, okay, give me your top five. Like I
Hmm.
am not going to find a unicorn. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
It would be fantastic, but let's be realistic. And the
Yeah.
job market's crazy right now. So how do we
Hmm.
find ways to narrow that down? So I really like that. Where I might not have considered somebody else previously. Now it's like, oh, I can really look at what they're good at, and I
Yeah.
can hone in on what would be, how this person's going to be successful. Because
Right.
inevitably, and this is kind of the old adage, we try to interview people and we're like, so tell us about a time when
Right.
you, it's that situational or that past behavior, past
Yeah.
experience kind of dictates how you're going to perform.
Right.
And while those are great questions sometimes, I
Hmm.
don't think they're always the best questions to ask candidates when you're looking for something very specific or that needle in the
Hmm.
haystack or those strengths that's really going to make them successful at work.
Right.
So I love this approach. Were there like what I mean, some of the success stories when you were showing people that this was happening, like what was
Yeah.
going on where you were saying, like, see, this is, you needed these three things. We brought you
Hmm.
these, you needed these 15 things. We gave you
Right.
three things, and this is probably one of your most successful employees.
Happens all the time.
Okay.
And the reason it happens all the time is because of the approach that we're taking is designed to produce that type of outcome. One of the things we measure is their speed of learning. And
Mm,
that's important because a lot of businesses want somebody who's experienced. That is a red flag, almost always a red flag versus bringing in an undiscovered A player, and putting them into the role. Now, do you have to train them? Yes. But here's what you don't have to do. You don't have to untrain them.
yeah.
And anybody with experience has to be untrained. Well, we did it this way you know, at the previous job that I was in. Well, we don't hear that because their previous job had nothing to do with what they're doing almost all times. So we don't have to untrain them. They learn incredibly quickly. They're up and running incredibly quickly. And one of the things that businesses hate is the training cycle because they're so conditioned to training somebody who leaves.
Yeah.
It is in psychology, it's called learned helplessness. No matter what you do, you can't change the outcome. And that's how people feel in that particular situation. So the folks that we're bringing to the table, they're excited about this role. This is an upgrade for them in their life. They're thankful, they're grateful for this opportunity, and they want to perform because they're naturally performers. And
I
their
love
their
that.
strengths and talents are matched to these roles. So as you can see, we're really laying the cards out very well here for a long-term hire who stays, who's going to really enjoy themselves, perform, and is somebody who's promotable.
That's such I mean, it's also I'm like having all these like kind of aha moments when I'm thinking about
Hmm.
bringing people on board. And I worked in the banking industry for an extended period of
Hmm.
time, and I worked in the credit union industry, and credit
Yeah.
unions were traditionally known for being like the training ground. And it
Yeah.
was like we would bring them in, we'd get them trained. What's great about working at a credit union is they're very member focused, very much
Hmm.
about customers and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then a bank would steal them, and a bank would
Yep.
steal them because they already came with a customer service experience. They
Hmm.
already learned about finances kind of because
Right.
we trained them. And now all they have to do is teach them how to sell. Because a lot of banking, if you're a
Yeah.
member service rep
Mostly
or
sales.
a
Sure.
teller, yeah, you're doing a lot
Hmm.
more selling than you are in the credit union
Right.
industry. And so I just noticed that there was a lot of that going on. And then a lot of companies that I've gone to have struggled because they're like, well, when people leave, it's like, well, you didn't give me the training.
Hmm.
Or you never told me. So I like when you are bringing somebody in, they're eager for this training because we've matched them. And this is going to be something that they're like, hey, this lights my fire. You know,
Right.
maybe you don't want to be a teller, but you want to get into finance. And you're like, I got to become a teller because that's the way it
Hmm.
makes me kind of think about eliminations of entry level, that whole component where you're taking away that phrase that's entry level. And it's almost like, hey,
Right.
listen, this is we don't want you to be the teller. We want you to be a member service person. That's where we're going to bring you in at. And
Right.
then we're going to train you because this is what you're passionate about. And it's not going to be
Hmm.
opposite. We're going to bring you in as a teller. You're never going to be happy until we move you
Yeah.
into that new role, which may or
Hmm.
may not ever happen. So that's a really interesting approach. And then again, I could almost see, or I could almost hear some of my HR people, or even my hiring managers, because I have
Yeah.
some of those out there that listen to this show, and it's some of my CEOs that listen to this too, are like, what do you mean experience? What do you mean
Hmm.
that I don't want him to have experience, or I don't, I need
Yeah.
him to have 15 years of experience.
Hmm.
I think that's it.
So
That's an interesting thought.
well, those in certain roles, like let's say executives or otherwise, we're not talking about that. That
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
approach, like our approach, requires a tremendous amount of candidates applying in order for us to find the needle in the stack of needles. We're not looking for a needle in a haystack. It's literally a needle in a stack of needles. That
Yeah.
type of approach. And so where we look at very defined roles that we can create these algorithms for and find people. And keep in mind, we have a complete feedback loop set up with Build My Team. Every hire that our customers make, they have to tell us about the performance of that person. And so we just feed that back into our algorithms. It gets better and better and better. It's in healthcare practices, we're at the level of approximately 97% on average for roles.
Wow.
And what does that mean? We can tell you with 97% certainty before we send those candidates over for you to review, the finalists, that they can work, that they will work out on the job. It's not a matter of can they do the job. We know that almost definitively. The what the practice does or the business will do is just pick the person that's the best match for their business. And a lot
That's
of times
so
they hire
cool.
more than one because like we love this person, we also love this person, so we're going to hire two. And then this goes to another level with our clients that have been working with us for a while. You've heard of the metaphor of getting the right people on the bus, of course. So
Yep.
everybody's talking about getting the right people on the bus. Well, we not only get the right people on the bus, but we change the seats. We
Oh,
change where they're sitting based upon these strengths and talents. And I'll give you an example. Um, this blew me away, but my team came to me and said about 50% of the practice, almost exactly 50% of the people applying for our healthcare practice didn't end up being hired in the job they were applying for.
that's
Believe it or
crazy.
half,
And this
a
is like a
coin
funny
toss.
look I just gave him. I'm like, what?
Yeah, a coin toss. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? Their natural strengths and talents were a better fit for one of the other open positions we have. So they were moved. And we've never had a candidate say no to that. What they were looking for is a stable job in a stable industry, air conditioning, nice computer job, dealing with people, and helping folks, right? That's generally what they're looking for applying for a healthcare position. They're not looking for, well, I can only do an assistant. I can only do, and you see what I mean? So we moved
Hmm.
them to the better fit for their position. And that as well doesn't occur very often at all in a traditional hiring
Yeah.
environment. So we get people onto the bus, right people on the bus, right seats on the bus with some of the leadership team. We get them the right people to drive the bus. And then our role as owners is to draw an extraordinarily detailed map, provide the vision of exactly where they're going to go, put guardrails on. You have to do that.
Right.
Then get out of the way and let them drive that bus as fast as they can. And when you have a team that really gels, it's incredible what they can accomplish. Far more than you think as an owner. You just
Mm.
get out of their way. And that brings me to another point. We talked about A players a little bit. There's something that we found out early on with Build My Team, um, categorically true across every industry we've been in. A players only want to work with A players.
Yeah.
They will tolerate B players, but when you keep losing your A players, it's because of the C players that you have clogging up their teams. They want nothing to do with those people. They will quit their job because of C players.
Hmm.
And the simple reason being is the A players, they don't need management. You don't need to tell them how to solve a problem. They're already approaching this in ways you can't think of. You define the outcome that you want, again, some guardrails, and get out of the way. You can't do that with a C player because a lot of times you're running around with a spoon, trying to spoon feed them all day
Yeah.
long.
Yep.
Spoon feeding, cat herding, babysitting, kindergarten teacher. We've all heard those types of things. So I've seen with our even our excuse me, our practice, removing those low performers doesn't mean they're bad people. They're just not a good match for that role. So move them to another position that is a much better match, or simply exit the team and bring in folks who have those natural strengths and talents. Um, to give you an example, in our practice, we went from 14 people down to 10 and a half full-time equivalents. Gross income went up 50%, and the
Holy
net
moly.
income almost tripled.
Holy
And
moly.
there's not a person listening to this podcast right now that believes a single thing that I just said regarding those numbers. I was called out on it on another podcast. I
Yeah.
scheduled some offline time with a fellow and showed him tax returns.
Oh my gosh.
He was blown away. So the point is, we went from the B and C players, arguably more C players than B players, to A players, and look at the outcome.
Yeah.
I could not have imagined that. It doesn't sound believable, but that's what a team of A and B players working cohesively with great management can accomplish. And that's in a stoic, ridiculously bureaucratic industry like healthcare.
Oh my gosh.
What
So I'm
what can it
sitting
do in
here
other
thinking,
businesses? Yeah.
the same thing. I mean, if
Hmm.
anything, like not only do you all in healthcare have to deal with all the crap that is insurance, and I could
Right.
do a whole nother podcast on insurance,
Yeah.
put everybody to sleep. I have a soapbox to have a big soapbox to get on when it comes to insurance.
We'd
But
have to hand out antidepressants after that
yeah,
podcast, I
yeah,
think. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. But I'm sitting here thinking as you're talking about A team, your A
Yep.
players and your B players, and I almost think those of you, maybe some of you are in your car and you're like, oh my gosh, I like have some C players. And it's like, Debbie Downer or
Hmm.
Nate the tattleteller, or I think that goes away, right? And then you're just going to have that continuity because you're going to have like with like. And I'm just almost in the back of my head, a lot of the employee relations issues that I deal with are because there's so many different types of personalities that we work with.
Right.
And it's, they don't almost fit where they should be fitting. They're good at one area, but that's not the entire job. That creates
Yeah.
resentfulness. I mean, just all this stuff. I'm just thinking as a manager, how many times have I had to have a conversation with Katie about her attitude and how it's
Yeah.
impacting her ability to get work done.
Right.
I just kind of word CA players wouldn't really tolerate that kind of stuff,
You
nor
no,
it's
there you're put yourself in the shoes of the Debbie Downer and that other person you mentioned. What's an average day showing up for work look like them for them? Okay. They're unhappy. They're miserable. They're bringing everybody down. Now, it generally starts with them being asked to do something they are terrible at. Who can possibly enjoy that day? If I'm asking you, Don, to come to work, and every day I'm going to take your 10 fingers and I'm going to put flaming bamboo under your 10 fingers. And I'm going to say, this is what we got to do tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. And Don, that's what you need to do for this amazing paycheck. Are you happy about that, Don?
no.
You're miserable, right? So no matter what happens, that type of person is in the wrong fit for them. Their role is completely wrong. You're not going to ever have one of those folks who's happy. Now, of course, there are external causes. They're
Right,
going through
right.
something in their life. I'm talking about people who are sustained in that particular type of approach to life. If you contrast that to those A players, I don't know that you'll have ever had a managerial discussion with that A player, other
Mhm.
than maybe, hey, tone it down when you're telling these C players they need to go find a job elsewhere. But those folks aren't necessarily wrong.
Right.
It's a completely different approach. And when you're constantly in a situation as a manager or a leader or owner where you're having those cat herding, spoon feeding moments, all that energy that you're spending to try and improve the unimprovable could be better spent on drawing that map and providing that crystal clear vision for more A players on your team.
Mhm.
What
Well, you
happens to the
said it just
business?
a few minutes ago when you said you had 14, and then you went to 10 and a half. It's
Yeah.
almost like you did this huge evaluation, again, air quote, but it's almost you like, okay, we don't have the right people in the right spots on the bus, and we're going to do some,
Right.
moving around. And now look at it. Not only were we able to, and I'm never for cutting people if you can't, but,
Hmm.
or if you have to, but I'm also like, hey, you could have people that are not doing the right job that literally are sucking money from the company.
Yeah.
They're sucking energy from your employees that are here to do a good job. And they're just like literally bringing the team down, which in turn does impact profitability,
Yeah.
productivity, retention. I mean, people don't realize it. It's three times someone's annual salary on average to get somebody hired. And then
Hmm.
you spend all this money getting them trained. And now what happens? You're kind of like, great, here we
Right.
go again.
Hmm.
If you're not hiring the right person. This is like, I
Yeah.
could talk about this all day. This is awesome.
Well, also think of it again from their perspective. They might just be trying to please the owner, the manager, the leader, and do the best they can, but they are not equipped in any way, shape, or form to perform in that particular job. And they don't want to let you down. I've heard that over and over by people on the way out of their particular roles. Um, and it never occurred to me that that's why they would keep plowing away at it.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's a valid point too.
It happens all the time,
Yeah. Or you really
especially
like your
at
manager. The C player really likes their manager and they're like, I
yeah,
don't want to leave because I just really like my manager, but I
yeah.
hate this job.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's
And
so
so
true.
that, that's a person who needs to be looked at seriously. Could they switch to a different role that does match their strengths and
Mhm.
talents? And we had that happen in our practice once. A person who was mind-blowingly empathetic, so pro-patient, it was incredible. She was at the front desk. She gave away all kinds of stuff. She would do anything for the patient, you name it. It was a terrible fit for the front desk. We created a role for her as a patient advocate. Advocate. She's perfect.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
unbelievably good because she's showing up every day using her natural
Yeah,
strengths and talents.
that's
And we had
awesome.
the flexibility to do that. But even if we didn't, if we found her a role like that and she left our team and joined that other team, imagine how much better that person's life would be and how much happier she would be.
Yeah, that's great. Oh my gosh. This is really good stuff. And it just really makes me think there's so many different better ways out there to hiring people and the retention and everything that goes into this. Build my team is fascinating. That's just a really neat thing.
It's
And
really fun.
we'll actually leave links to your website and information on how to connect with you so that people can, have more in-depth conversations because I'm sure
Mhm.
this is like can be applicable to just about any industry out there 100%. Well, as we start wrapping up, what's one little nugget that you'd like to leave with the listeners?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is that for anybody who's really experiencing this awfulness with hiring, I just want you to know you're not alone.
Hmm.
I mean, when I was going through all of that, I thought the weight of the world is on me, all the responsibility to get to fix this problem, etc. We got it fixed, and and you're not alone. Our company has solved these types of problems through all kinds of different industries. Your time could be focused on your family,
Hmm.
your kids, you're showing up. And when I say showing up, I don't just mean being at the soccer games, but putting the phone down, not sweating bullets. Think of Monday morning when you pick up your phone and you check your email and your hands are sweaty because you're just waiting for somebody to call out.
Yeah.
You know it's going to happen. That type of stress has an additive effect on a person that you won't realize until it's gone. It is impossible to get that through to a person until it's gone. And that's my
That's so
point.
true. That is
Yeah.
100% true. You're like, I used to manage a
Right.
call center. I had 30 direct reports, and I was always like, all right, who's calling out? Who's going to be late today? It's always that
Yeah.
whole thing. Well,
Yeah.
this has been, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't want to
And
interrupt you.
so you're going to get a text that morning that I can't possibly come in because my girlfriend's goldfish died. She's so broken up about this. I won't be able to come in today. And you ran a call center. So everybody, you have heard every conceivable
I have
excuse, reason under
100%.
the sun. That's what the book should be written about is hiring excuses and that type of thing.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks again, Dr. Neal. This has been great. And again, we'll leave your contact information so that people can get a hold of you. Things that we're passionate about hiring,
Mhm.
recruiting, retaining, all the stuff that makes a workplace a better place to do actual work. So, again, thanks for joining us. And until
Thank
next
you so
time,
much.
all my listeners, stay fabulous.